Are you a high performing real estate investor who's looking to further elevate your performance? If so, download our free guide, Raising the Bar 5 Steps to Elevate Your Habits, by joining our insider network at elevatepod.com. This guide, created by yours truly, has the power to put your transformation on autopilot and exponentially change your trajectory. Go get your free copy now at elevatepod.com.
Welcome to Elevate, the masterclass where we dissect the elements of exceptional achievement and lifestyle design with a focus on personal growth and real estate investing. Now, here's your host, Tyler Chesser.
Holly Williams, the legendary Holly Williams. How we doing?
Doing great, Tyler. How are you?
It feels great to be with you in my house.
Isn't that amazing?
I know.
We are having a great time in Louisville, Kentucky. I've never been here.
Right? And you're buying deals here now.
I'm buying deals, and it's a great deal, and very excited. And love working with you. Just
Same.
Crazy, and this is going to be our second deal together.
I know. It's fun. I mean, we always have fun. There's nobody that makes me laugh more than Holly Williams. Where does that come from? Like, where's the humor? Have you always been that funny, or what's the deal?
Well, so when you grow up in Texas, where everyone has big hair and they're a cheerleader.
I've heard you talk about this before.
Cheerleaders and the drill team and all of this, you better get a sense of humor.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That was how you stood out, or what was the deal?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was like you are what you are, right? Mm-hmm. And I was just born. I mean, I was.
Were you like a class clown?
I was 5'8" in the 4th grade. So all these little girls were little teens.
Were you a bully, kind of, or?
I did beat up Jonathan, what was his last name? When he tried to pull my ponytail.
He might listen.
See, I
to
had long hair. I mean, I was doing
really?
it, but it was, but I was like really, really tall.
Yeah.
And, it was, what can I tell you?
So there is this thing that I do now. I've started to do this over the past few months in the podcast, where I ask people to describe themselves in the way that the closest people, that whether they're married to them, whether it's their kids, whether it's their family members, best friends, in the way that they would describe you. How would they do it? I mean, play with me on that one.
Well, so it's interesting because I know that you work with Trevor McGregor.
Yep. My friend, big shout out to Trevor.
And
our friend.
Big shout out to Trevor, because Trevor actually was the person who had me do this, and it changed everything.
Love it.
What he had me do was he had me ask a few questions. I picked like a couple of relatives, a couple of people I work with, a couple of friends, and just asked some questions like, when you think of me, what do you think of? And when you, what do you think that I'm good at? Mm-hmm. What am I better at than anybody else, or whatever? And all of them unanimously said like the same stuff. And that's when I realized that, my personality is never going to mesh with my boss's personality. We're never going anywhere.
Right.
Right? And so it was really interesting to see that in black and white. And it was really like, I'm reliable, can talk to anybody.
Oh my gosh.
Your
personality is amazing.
And if you want to get, I get stuff done and cut to the chase. Now, what I'm not is very detail oriented. I just want the bottom line, and I got to have somebody with me that pays attention to the details, because I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. You know, so when you were asking people these questions, were you surprised at what you found out?
Not necessarily.
It reinforced a bit.
Right.
And you were like, wait a minute, no kidding, right?
This is me. No wonder I've had trouble.
Interesting. So when you say you had trouble, this was when you were still considering, all right, corporate life, because you were in an advertising role, corporate executive for how many, 30 years, right?
Oh, yeah. And, it got to the point where, you keep getting promoted, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're responsible you have all these people reporting to you. I'm not that, I'm just like, get it done. I mean, I did it.
Yeah.
I know how to manage it, P&L, all that stuff, and I know how to manage people.
For sure.
It's not something that I aspire to do. Mm-hmm. I don't want a staff of 40 people around the world where I have to keep up with them, and I'm terrible at it, frankly.
Yeah.
And I really have. The biggest thing is, it's not that I can't do it.
You just don't enjoy it.
I hate it.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Because you're just such a like free spirit. You're like, let's go, let's have fun, let's learn, let's push the bounds, like let's have fun. I mean, you're hilarious.
None
it's
of
unbelievable.
this is working.
Yeah.
You see, my husband's like, you don't do any work.
But you work hard, though. The thing that I've learned about you is that you work hard. And most people, you don't see it as working.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Because I've hired somebody now to do all the stuff that I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And all I really do is sit around and talk to people and go look at properties. And,
right.
And talk to residents. You know?
So you're in your unique genius now.
Yes, and so everybody has to do, yes. I mean, you know, we're dealing with this thing with my company. I've got to find the paperwork for whatever, right?
It's painstaking.
Right, so a lot of, you're not going to find anything that, is perfect.
Right.
Right, and you're not, everybody has to do things that they hate to do, whatever, but it's all about the percentage of time that you're spending on things that, you really are really going to move, gratify you as a person, and really make you happy. And it's all about those things that spending more time on those things than all the stuff that you. And in my job, at the end of my career, I was spending 90% of my time in things that I hated.
Yeah.
And now, early in my career, I loved it. I mean, it wasn't like I was miserable for 30 years. Right. There were many times, many parts of it I really loved.
Right.
And when I was a salesperson and all that, I loved,
But gosh, you could sell an icicle to oh my goodness. Are you kidding?
Right. I had a great time. Right. And even a manager of a sales team, that's fine. But when it got to be, I wasn't going to go, I had done as much as I was going to do in that whole career.
So when Trevor challenged you to ask those questions to people around you, I would imagine you were having some internal dissonance with your life at the time. You're like, what's my problem? And you're starting to ask this question. Then it started to become clear to you that you needed to be an entrepreneur. You needed to pivot. And later in your career, which is a lot of people always say, I'm not going to do that. I don't even care how much dissonance I'm feeling. Is there anything else that you would reflect on that time?
Well, I think that I was kind of an entrepreneur.
So I like that.
Things like early in my career, I worked for Nielsen, Arbitron, the ratings, but it's Nielsen now. It was Arbitron back then. And people used our stuff to make advertising decisions.
Yeah.
So it was data. I sold data, right, basically. Right? Yeah. And I was in New York State, and New York State borders with Canada. And at that time, because of the exchange rate, Canadians were really advertising in New York, across the border. So I just go to Toronto and started calling on all these agencies in Toronto. Well, I never asked anybody. I just went up there and did it. And it turns out I ended up opening an office there.
Really?
Yeah, it turns out, too, that I wasn't really supposed to travel internationally without all this extra paperwork and everything.
I love how you break rules without...
And I just went. I didn't even bother. I mean, what's the difference, right?
Yeah.
And so I just went up there and did it. So it was those sorts of things, and we ended up getting a couple $1 million, quickly out of Canada. And so the people, Arbitron was like, oh my God, who is this person? And so that's kind of what...
So you always just follow your nose a little bit.
Right, and I really wasn't supposed to. Seriously, we could have gotten in, I guess, somebody told me, somebody somewhere told me we could get into a lot of trouble and whatever. That's happened to me a lot.
Yeah. But you're one of those people that I get the sense in a good way, is that you break rules, you apologize later, but you don't break rules in the sense of taking advantage of other people. You break rules for the greater good. Does that resonate with you?
Try to.
Yeah, because some rules are BS.
You think?
That's like half of our conversations is like, can't believe this, this is wrong, why are we doing this, what's wrong with society, and this, that, and the other, right? And it's not a negative mindset, but you're pointing out things like, come on, guys, what are we thinking here? Does anybody question anything?
It's stupid, I mean, why wouldn't you be able to go to Canada? I mean, it's just right there.
it's a border, right? Which could be in some ways imaginary, right? Like this border is made up.
It wasn't like I snuck across.
How many things are made up?
I took a plane and a passport and everything. They knew who I was, and so I didn't hurt anybody.
And what's the difference between one state and another too?
Correct.
It's just a line.
Correct.
We look at it on a map and we say, well, this is this state and this is that state and this is the certificate of good standing of this entity. It's all made up.
It's really interesting that you say that because, we're in an environment right now. We fought a civil war, right?
Right.
Long time ago, and there were states.
Right.
And people didn't get on airplanes and travel. I mean, I would have never, 100 years ago or whatever, obviously, probably even 75 or 60 years ago or whatever, have gotten on a plane and moved to New York from Houston.
Right.
I grew up my whole life in the South. Well, it's not so much now that we have a border differences at all because we're just really getting really commingled. I mean, I'm married a New Yorker and
big shout out to Joe, by the way.
I know,
Joe gets a lot of love.
Shout out to Joe.
That's right.
Yeah, and
I can't wait to meet Joe.
He probably won't even watch. I'm just like whatever.
Yeah, he won't get that shout out, will he?
Probably not. But we're not really. It's where you're from anymore. It's more of your values and how you look at life.
I like that.
And what I love about the business that we're in is that, it's all about like-mindedness and it's all about surrounding yourself with people that have a lot of the same values as you do and complement your skills. And if you don't have that's what Trevor did for me. I mean, and I took personality and, all the Myers-Briggs and all that, the corporate stuff, and it was just whatever. Trevor really boiled it down for me. Here's you. Here are the people that complement you, their qualities, and here are the people that you just are not going to work with. Mm-hmm. It occurred to me, when I looked at that, this is my boss. My boss was like the
antithesis of you.
You're not going to work well with these people at all, so just forget it.
Wow. What was that? Just curious. What were the type of people that...
Very detailed.
Okay. Yeah.
You
don't mesh well with them?
Process, all of those
Are these people that you don't mesh well with or people that you need to surround yourself with?
People that want me to be...
Oh, they want you to be that. Got it.
Like a boss.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Now, it's okay if you're complimenting yourself, but even then that person has to be able to see the big picture because otherwise they're just going to sit there... We all have to, I tell my daughter this all the time, you have to have a working knowledge. Like I made her take a computer class and code, learn she needs to know what that is.
Yeah.
She needs to know what you have to do. You don't have to be.
So that when you surround yourself with people who are in it, you can understand if they're doing it right.
Well, right, and you can understand what the capabilities are.
Yeah.
You see, so... If you're going to design an app for the iPhone or whatever, in this day and age, I'm over the hill, right? But
you're pretty technologically advanced, though. I got to get you some AirPods, though.
No, they fall out of my ears. I've tried it.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, they do. They don't.
That's such an excuse.
Anyway, we've tried it. But,
you look good at these, though.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah, but yeah, so you have to have a knowledge of this is kind of what you have to do, but it doesn't mean you have to do it. Like I know how to mow the lawn. It doesn't mean I...
Right. So what you realize is that it was about who you're surrounding yourself with. If you wanted to expand in your life, it was about who you're surrounding yourself with. And you were talking about in real estate, it's like-minded people. Mm-hmm. One of the things, I would take it a step further, it's abundantly minded people. It's an abundance mindset. It's people that say, look, if we push a little bit or if we surround ourselves with complementary skill sets, we can go bigger. Not only can we receive more, but we can give more. Mm-hmm. We can make a better impact and all these things. This is one of the things that's like, our relationship is like, I love it. It's so fun to talk about.
Well, and the other thing is really owning who you are and what makes you tick. Ooh. Right? So I thrive on being with people. If I'm not with people, I spiral downward quickly.
And we do not want to see that. It would be bad.
Like, and I love, going, and I don't necessarily love the airplane part of it, but once I get there, I thrive on that. Yeah. And so COVID, this last year and a half or so has been especially hard. It's really made me mad, actually.
Really?
Because it's like, anyway.
Is that because you haven't been spending time with people, or you're saying maybe it's just like it's affected your state, so to speak?
Probably state. Yeah. Just exactly right. And
so you said owning who you are.
But see, and that's the beauty of technology, is that that's my fault.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you have to own what you're responsible for.
And so instead of being a victim of circumstance, you could say, look, I have all of this at my fingertips. Like you and I, we probably connect every day. And it's a little bit, it's like, all right, stop calling me. Second of all, don't call me again. But other than that, it's every once in a while, it's all good. But, so you have these things, right? So we can connect. You connect with people all over the country, all over the world, really, right? So
like you see it. Right? You're always asking me, can you put the name of the thing into the form? And I'm like, no, not really. I really don't.
But you do it, though.
But I do it. But,
you figure it out. I mean,
you have to remember. I have to be prompted. Okay, can you please put the name, or email, whatever, because it's all in the head.
But you do it though, but the thing that I've really recognized about you is that you connect with people to a point where they trust you, and it's not like you've swindled them into something, but you educate people and you connect them to opportunities, you connect them, but you're also just friends with people. So like, if you had to like really take a step back and like peer into your life, like what is it that allows you to do that? Is there anything that you would say?
Everything that I'm doing.
Maybe it's just natural personality, right?
Well, today, I mean, I try to talk about my experiences. And I try to learn.
And people connect with that and they resonate with that.
Yeah. And I try to learn about other people's experiences and find common things. I mean, we're so divided in this country, and it just blows my mind, because I can sit down, if it's one-to-one, I can sit down with someone that is completely, totally off, completely politically or whatever, the complete opposite.
Right.
And we can agree on 80%.
I like that.
And that 80% is really the important stuff.
Totally agree. Agree.
It's really, really what's really, really important. Like fix the airports, fix the roads.
Easily.
I mean, seriously. So what that just reinforces to me, because this is not rocket science. I didn't think of any of this. I've never had an original thought in my life. Right?
The smartest people I know say that, by the way, which is amazing.
But that's
a pattern.
The fact that we can't do that, and that our leaders, they don't want us to be united.
Totally.
And so I've come to that conclusion, and that is another reason why I wrote Hidden Investing.
Yes.
It's another reason why I try to listen. I watch much less news than I ever have.
But you're still informed, and we can talk about that.
Yeah, unfortunately. But I think that...
But it's not about information, it's about insight. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I just think that we're not... And I have a teenage daughter who I can tell you right now is being spoon-fed things. And not necessarily to take a multiple choice test. I mean, but...
Right.
They're not learning the whole story.
Right.
And how to think critically.
But that's what you do, is like you take in the information, you observe, and you glean insights based on what's happening. And like one of the reasons like you and I have connected so much is obviously doing deals together, doing real estate, but you look at real estate in a very unique way. Like you look at it as not only can we create income streams and, keep more, which is like keepmore.com. By the way, go to keepmore.com. That's Holly's website. And it's really her company. It's Keep More. And talk about hidden investing and obviously all the things that you learned from transitioning from being a corporate executive to entrepreneur and now entrepreneur and investor and so forth. And you observe all this stuff and you say, well, we haven't been given this information. Let's do this. Let's go for it.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. All right. If you had if somebody today gave me $1 million.
Okay.
And said, listen, here's $1 million and I want you to do something good for your community. I want you to help, move something forward or whatever.
Yeah.
Would you give it to Washington to do that? No.
I wouldn't, no.
No, because, and it would just go poof. Right. And so it occurred to me I was getting, more and more disgusted, because as I rose up this ladder and began to get into a position where I could do some good stuff.
Right. You were creating some income.
I ended up paying half of what I was making
Which is what most people do
to the government.
if they're blessed to get to that position.
So I'm
Yeah.
very blessed, and I became very grateful, and I wanted to share things. And it seemed like everywhere I turned, all of my accountant at that time said was, "Oh, well, that's lucky that you're paying a lot of taxes. It means you're making a good."
Gosh, I hate
and
that.
it sends me into orbit, basically, because.
I've seen her in orbit, by the way. It's not pretty.
Right. I watched, then when I watched my parents, this was the big thing. I watched my parents, they did the 401k thing. And I remember the day my dad retired and he took the lump sum as opposed to the pension. And he told me, they said, because we want to leave you and your brother, we can, whatever. Because he had bought into this whole thing.
Yeah.
And thank God I was in a position to help him in later in life, because they got killed, and they didn't get killed.
Did they run out? Or
Well, just about. They didn't get killed because of mismanagement. They got killed because of taxes.
right, exactly.
So you put that money in the 401k early on, and you take it out. They make you take it out, first of all, and you pay, it's taxed as regular income. Mm-hmm. That is a huge difference.
Right.
And so you put it in when you're in a low tax bracket, and you take it out. And this is the other line that's in my book is I talk about these myths.
Yeah.
I've found that for people to really begin to change their mindset in private investing like the wealthy do. See, there's public investing. You see, the stock market is a secondary market. I mean, it's really like it's the used car market.
Interesting.
It is a secondary market. The wealthy have opportunities to participate in the primary market.
Directly.
And then they open it up.
Got it.
Some other people. So when I discovered this.
When did you discover that?
When I found multifamily syndication. Because
Okay.
that is all we're doing.
Right.
Is until recently, if you wanted to buy an apartment complex, you see, it's even today, you can go to any apartment complex. You can ask the people that work there, who owns this? They don't know. I mean, they'll tell you the name of the management company.
Always.
But who owns them are A-Rod, and these hedge
Or Holly
funds.
Williams.
Well, now, but these hedge funds and all of these special first position funds that you need, a $30 million net worth to participate in and all that, they get access to this stuff. And they have for years and years and years and years and years. And all we're doing is saying, wait a minute, we can do the same thing, except we can get people that we know and give them the opportunity to participate. And that's what my friend Joe Fairless did for me.
Right.
He came to me and he said, this is what I'm doing.
This was your first foray into the business. What year was this?
It was his first too.
Yeah. You guys knew each other through advertising, right? In New York?
We did. And we knew each other before that.
Big shout out to Joe Fairless as well. Phenomenal guy.
Yeah. He's a good, still today, fabulous friend, and we're tight. And,
Awesome friend. Awesome person.
So this was probably 2012, and I had just lost my parents, and I had just experienced this whole thing.
So you were like really fresh on this
they
thing.
did everything. Just in the car, we're talking about long-term care insurance. I'm big into this infinite banking,
Right.
which is a whole other thing. People try to sell you long-term care insurance. Well, my parents bought it, and it just keeps going up and up and up. And so finally, at the end of the time, they ended up dropping it.
So none of this is theory for you. I mean, like you saw it up close and personal, and you've seen it, you've experienced it.
Because they tell you, we all have.
In some ways, it probably angered you, I would imagine. In many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just not the whole story, and we don't have access to this stuff.
Everybody's getting lied to.
And, they've got their own agenda, and it's not necessarily like, so if you're a stockbroker, which really you're a salesperson,
Right.
and you come out of, I went to business school, and I didn't learn any of this.
No, I didn't either.
I learned about mutual funds, and I learned
You want to know how I learned about it? Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, as simple as it is, and everybody talks about it, but it's like, oh, wait a minute. It's
right.
really simple,
That's exactly right.
but it's a mindset shift.
But I didn't know how to access it.
So the first deal was with Joe And so he says, look, I'm going to buy this property. I need you to come in with me on this. He's educating you on what it is. You're like,
Yeah, he
I have
didn't
no idea.
really know
He didn't
that much either. I mean,
Right.
So he has worked really, really hard, and people think he just made a success overnight,
Yeah.
and that's entirely not true.
So committed.
And so, so that's kind of how it was. I grew organically into this, and it was really by personal experience. When I went a year or two into this, when I found out that I had all these paper losses that could offset, because
Beautiful.
I had bought rental property and stuff, but that's a lot of work.
But that is work, yeah. It's like you deserve a big time paper loss.
And you can't scale it. And I was paying
Exactly.
taxes on that income.
Right.
So it's completely changed my life. And so my whole, and what blew my mind is that I know people, I was fortunate enough to work for some pretty big companies and startups that I have some friends that made lots more money than me. When we were trying to raise $1 million to buy this first deal, I was like, oh, that's no problem. I call up my friend in San Francisco that sold his last company for $350 million. And I'm like, listen, got this real estate, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, Holly, listen, I lost money on a land deal. Do you want to, if you want to start a market research company, I'll invest in it. Do you want,
Interesting.
Do you want a job? But
He's like,
he
oh
was
my gosh, you're desperate.
I don't understand. They don't know about it either. And I've had
Right.
people.
Even in that
Oh,
realm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've had, really, really high level corporate executives don't know. Even real estate agents.
But they're starting to know, though, because they're starting to see, 50%, 60% taxes. And people are starting to see, like, wait a minute, that doesn't feel right. So I think people are starting to look. I'm seeing that. I don't know if you've seen more of that recently.
And, it's really interesting because we're creating so many jobs.
Right.
And we're paying
In real
taxes.
estate.
I'm paying taxes.
Oh, my
There's
goodness.
no question.
We've been talking about property taxes left and right. Like, it's
my
crazy.
God. Oh, yeah. But I'll tell you that there's a war because people don't understand. And I think that it's intentional. So I don't think that when I come out of college and I want to go work on Wall Street, I don't know either. You see, they go in and they'll join.
Nobody knows.
They'll join Fidelity's training program. And Fidelity will teach them what they want them to know.
Exactly. Indoctrination.
Right. And so when you're
Plug into the system.
Every single investor that I've talked to a bunch that says, I'm going to talk to my financial advisor, I was like, don't even bother. He'll tell you no.
Right.
And
because they're not educated.
Correct.
And they don't understand either that. Well,
There are a few.
there's a few that understand, but they want you to go to their sales product, right? And they don't have the interest.
And then the other few, get this, you see, if they work, one of my closest friends, was a big cheese at Deutsche Bank, right? Well, I didn't know this, but he didn't really know it either. But what he did know was that he was putting people in stocks and he owned a little of them. But really what he was doing was investing in their private funds.
Interesting.
So if you work there, you have access to. And when I asked him, I said, so how can I get in it? Well, you can't. Well, it's for people that work there. They work with some of the really rich. Well, how much money do I need? Well, you need a $30 million net worth. You need this, that, and the other thing. And because it's risky. That's what they tell you.
Oh, yeah.
It's risky. Oh, that's really risky. And it's really, meanwhile, you can go
if a
out.
$30 million net worth person makes the decision, it's not risk.
Well, not even
there's education.
You and I, you can go out, anybody can go out and buy a stock, and it can go down to nothing.
Absolutely.
But
every deal has inherent risk.
They've set the accredited investor thing,
Right.
we don't have access.
So now
to a
your
bunch of-
tagline is invest like the uber wealthy.
Correct.
And that's this is another insight that has given you more of an inside look to say, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, trust me, I'm in the stock market. I
Right.
don't think any of
You're
this
dynamic.
is
You
bad.
have a differentiator in your portfolio across the board.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, wait a minute, something's not right here
Yeah.
that banks are the largest purchaser of life insurance in the country. So banks,
Right.
okay, so why do banks purchase life insurance? Well, it's the safest place, and they get good returns.
So it's their own infinite banking policy.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so they are making 5%, on their money. They're loaning it to you for they're loaning it to you for 7, whatever they're doing.
There's leverage, which is one of the most powerful things in the world, and on compound interest and all these things combined, it's unbelievable.
Right. And they'll say, oh, well, my money's tied up. No, it's not. When the 2008 financial crisis happened, the banks limited the amount that you could withdraw from an ATM at one time.
Right.
The banks, they do this fractional
It's an
lending.
alibi. The whole my money's tied up.
They only have 10% or so of the money that you've got deposited.
Because it's on the insurance policies.
If you wanted the whole thing, so it's once I learned about all of this and how, and then today, what's really gotten me and what prompted me to write the book was what I've learned with multifamily and infinite banking and then seeing our government just print money.
Hey guys, just a quick word from our sponsor and we'll be right back to the show. This episode of Elevate is brought to you by CF Capital. And you know how much I love real estate and how it can be a vehicle towards creating any outcome that you want in your life, which is really why we created CF Capital. It's a real estate investment firm that focuses on acquiring and operating multifamily assets that provide stable cash flow, capital appreciation, and a margin of safety for our investors, for our partners, and for the people that we serve. Our team leverages its expertise in acquisitions and management to provide investors like you with superior risk-adjusted returns while placing a premium on preserving capital. Our mission is to provide property investment and asset management solutions to help investors maximize their returns by investing in high-value multifamily communities. Our philosophy is that we can elevate communities together through this process. And I want to invite you to go check out cfcapllc.com because we have a free ebook that's called The Bottom Line, the 10 ways to increase cash flow in an apartment complex. And I want to tell you that this is a value-packed ebook. So I want to invite you to go check that out right now at cfcapllc.com. I think you're going to get a ton of value just from reading this, whether you apply it to your own business or whether you educate yourself further on what it would look like if you invested with CF Capital. So go check that out at cfcapllc.com. Again, that's cfcapllc.com. And enjoy the rest of the show. And you talk about crypto, you look at the financial markets, you look at currency in general. I mean, talk to me a little bit because I do really appreciate the way that you observe the environment, you make sense of it, and you make decisions personally, and you connect other people to ideas as well.
Yeah, and I'm not a financial advisor. I want to make sure that that's
100%.
Clear.
That's important. Yeah.
I'm not selling, nobody's offering
That's
anything.
the cool thing about it is you're not selling anything. There's nothing to be sold.
Well, this is only my experience.
And I can tell you, just for anybody who's listening, this is Holly, how she lives personally. Like with this, if the microphones weren't on, we'd have the exact same conversation.
Yeah. We are.
We really are, yeah.
And it's supply and demand.
Right.
I mean, it's just...
We're talking currency now.
This is basic economics, that if you have, to be a currency has to, first of all, be scarce. It has to be hard to get, take a lot of work.
You have to exchange value, right?
It has to be portable.
Okay.
Has to be accepted as currency. So anything can really be a currency.
Like a real estate.
Well, right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's an asset.
Oh, yeah. I have people that are buying bullets. You read about these people that are buying lumber.
I joke. I go to Home Depot and I see somebody driving with some lumber in their truck, and I'll say, "That's an investor right there."
That's exactly.
That's an investor.
Used to be toilet paper, right?
Right. Exactly.
I'll sell you a roll of toilet paper. So I think that, or I'll trade it for them. And so that's all. This is really what a currency is. And so when you just it used to be backed up by gold.
Right.
It's not now.
Right. In 71.
So it's basically
Bretton Woods, right?
And they confiscated everyone's gold.
Yes.
I mean, they really did think about that.
It made it illegal, right? It was illegal to own gold for a certain period of time.
That's what they're trying to do with crypto. A lot of countries, and they can't because they can't. They can't shut it down. I mean, the SEC chairman, Gary Gensler, said, to shut it down, you'd have to shut down the internet. They very well may do that. I don't know. But I do know that they're printing money. You see now inflation. I've been saying this for a year now. You can't keep printing money and not have the money that you have go down in value. And that's what inflation is.
Yeah, no doubt.
So everybody thinks that, they're getting all this money from the government, but it's really hurting the middle. It's hurting people because what's happening is you've got more money. It's being given to you, first of all, so you become a victim.
Yeah.
You can easily because you start to become dependent and I've got it so bad. And if you're a victim, we've talked about this, you can never not be a victim.
Right.
You're always a victim. You'll never get out of being a victim.
Yeah.
And the biggest, scariest thing in our country that's going on right now is the whole victim mentality. It's your responsibility to make me feel comfortable. It's your responsibility. My daughter's in high school, and I'm like, honey, you're supposed to feel uncomfortable.
Right.
You're
Discomfort
16
is good.
years old. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable. That's what. So if you don't learn how to be uncomfortable when you're 16, when you're 35, you're not going to.
Right.
You're going to be totally lost. And so we're creating this whole cycle of dependence with money and that's what's happened in Venezuela because it costs more and more. Everything's so expensive. And then usually what happens is that the countries just, get rid of that and develop a new currency or, just like a stock split, they'll, split it. So all of a sudden 1 peso.
But this is why financial intelligence is so important, because what's happening right now, it can be very complicated and complex in many regards. You could also simplify it in many of the ways that you just did, but it's important to pay attention and to get your head out of the sand, right? Because we could just say, well, this is good, modern monetary theory. A lot of people talk about modern monetary theory. It's all good. Just keep going, keep investing trillions of dollars in new technologies and don't worry about it and it'll all be good. Or you can say, all right, well, let's hedge our bets. Let's have an understanding of what is this doing to impact. We can be against certain things. And we can also say, regardless of that, how do we act now? What's the best way to act? That's what you do.
And you can, not every deal is a good one.
Right.
Right?
Right. We know that.
Right. But I will say this, real estate, land ownership, so there are certain universal truths, right? One universal truth since the beginning of the modern world was that land ownership was the measure of wealth.
And voting rights and all these things.
Everything.
Yeah.
If you owned land, you had power.
So there's a clue.
And you had money, and you had, it was valuable. And it never, ever has not been valuable. That is one positive thing for real estate, right?
Yeah, so you go back in history and you can see those clues. And now when you talk about inflation, I know one of the things that you and I love about real estate is that it hedges against inflation in many capacities. Yeah, right?
Because it's limited there's only so much of it. And it's hard to get.
Right.
You don't just build. Right now we've got a big, huge housing shortage because you can't find, everything's so expensive and you can't find contractors. Nobody knows how to do anything because they're sitting back getting paid by the government.
Right.
So, some of our deals, like, in Orlando, for instance, if you want to buy a house, there's nothing to buy. And if you want to build a house, there's a 12 to 24 month backlog and it's probably longer now.
And we talked about this yesterday just a little bit. It's like, what's going on with the supply issues? Because there's supply issues all over the place for everything, for rental cars, for lumber, for steel.
I can't get a rental car.
Right?
Poor thing. Tyler's been running around Louisville picking me up and taking me. Because I can't find a rental car. There aren't any.
Yeah.
I found one that was like, $300 a day.
But you go back to the thought of like, okay, I can be the victim. I'm like, oh, well, woe is me. We can't get all these things. Right. Or you can say, all right, this is the reality right now. So how do we act?
Correct.
As investors, as entrepreneurs, as people? And you look at this and you say, well, supply and demand. We were talking about currency. Supply and demand for real estate. Obviously, prices go up and all these different things, right?
Right.
Return on investment.
Well, and people are renting. So when I went to Orlando and people are moving like Charleston, South Carolina, and Louisville.
Yeah.
People are fleeing. You can't get a U-Haul in New York.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I might just see if I can drive one back and get paid for it. That could be another source of revenue, right? But
You have so many. I like
you
it.
know, it's seriously, you can't do it. And so these people have to have a place to live. And Orlando especially, I went down there, and everyone from Latin America, especially like countries like Venezuela, they know Cuba. I mean, all of these people that have lived under these oppressive, where they call it hyperinflation.
Yes.
And it's a thing, and it's really true. There's nothing to buy, and a hot dog is $20.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyone with any means at all has gotten out, right? And they don't have anywhere to live, and so they're renting apartments. These are very wealthy, people from Latin America that can't buy a house and have contracted to build one, but they're not going to be in it for another 2 years, right?
Right.
If that. And I think I don't see that changing because everyone, I tell people I have very few friends in New York now. And they're everywhere else.
You got some friends.
Not
you got
many.
Friends.
Not like I did.
Yeah.
We had a really good time.
Because everybody left. A lot of people
that's what
left.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I go,
Well, it's important. I mean, like you go back to like paying attention. You got to pay attention. What's going on with migration? What's going on? Not only domestic migration, global migration, right? You're talking about people leaving communist countries, socialist countries, and people are trying to find freedom, right? So you have to understand the drivers. I think this is important. You have to understand human behavior. This is one of the things that I think you and I have a lot in common on. You were an advertising executive for many years. You had to understand human behavior.
That's right.
Are you you're connecting those dots behind, like, you can see where things are going based on what you understand about current, future behavior. And it all comes down to people just want to live. They just want to be free. They want to.
Most people do, unless you've been taught to be a victim.
Okay, this is it.
And you see, I write about how the wealthy think differently.
Let's talk about that.
You see it all the time. And this, again, everybody, this is just my opinion. I'm certainly not worth $100 million. So, take it for the grain of salt that it is.
She's legit, though. She's legit.
I don't know about that. But I mean, it really, if you hear it all the time. These star athletes make millions of dollars. The people win the lottery. They win like $100 million, and they're broke 5 years later.
Yes.
And it's because of the mentality. Wealthy invest in assets. Mm-hmm. In assets like real estate, like gold, like Bitcoin. I mean, if you really take the time, Bitcoin's not just a speculative. Bitcoin is there is a finite amount of it. And, that's a whole other thing. You can go to my website and find some stuff. I do webinars occasionally, and I've done some.
I'll give you a shout out because she did a webinar on crypto.
3 of them.
You've done 3 webinars on crypto, and you definitely want to go check it out. Just go to keepmore.com. Mm-hmm. And, I remember you talking about, and I don't want to take the tangent too far, but you talked about crypto as being almost like what it reminds you of when the internet was 99, 2000.
Blockchain technology is going to change everything.
It's like we're on the precipice of that right now.
And the banks are terrified. Janet Yellen all of our monetary fund, they don't know what to do.
Right, and they can't regulate it right now.
Some of the banks are now refusing. If you can't move your money to a crypto exchange. Like you can't move your money to crypto.com to buy crypto.
Right.
So we're not going to let you buy crypto with your money. I mean, just let all this sink in. And what kind of smart decisions is our government really making? Do you really think that they're smarter than you?
Yeah, are you really going to let them make your decisions?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so we have the greatest country in the world.
I agree.
We have the greatest country in the world, and that's what freedom is.
Yeah.
Freedom is, I worked for this. I mean, I don't want anything from the government except maybe the Army or something. Because that's what they're really supposed to be doing.
100%.
So I think that you should do your own research, but I've stopped now just taking what I'm hearing as the truth.
Right. And you're questioning everything.
Yeah, I think so, and I don't think everybody in our government's bad.
Right.
I'm not trying to say that it's bad or we should revolt.
But just take them. Yeah.
Just take a minute, because most of the people they're not bad people. They're just doing what they're told to do.
It's a system.
It's a system.
Yeah.
And it's ingrained. It's just, and society evolves.
And it comes down to mindset, it seems. I mean, honestly, I'm trying to get to the bottom of this, and it really seems like what you're talking about is we've got to change the way we think. And we've got to take some clues and look at some patterns, obviously behaviors in terms of investing in assets. But how else do the wealthy think?
Well, so another universal truth, one of them's land, measure of wealth.
Yeah.
Gold is a measure of wealth. All of those things that have been traditional measures of wealth that have not changed to this day.
Sure.
Another one is the whole things grow.
Okay.
The universe grows and expands.
Yes.
So I go back to my hometown in Houston, and when I grew up there was one loop. Now there's 3. I don't even know where some of it goes.
It's amazing.
Right? Now it's the 4th largest city in America.
Yeah.
Right? You've lived here in Louisville, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, it's grown tremendously. Yeah.
So, the forest burns down.
Right.
New growth.
And it rebuilds.
It just does. That is what the universe does.
That's a natural law.
Correct.
In
It's
all
a natural
ways.
law. So if you've got a company, when you grow, you've got greater needs for everything because you just grew. You just doubled the amount of concrete you need. You just doubled the amount of, whatever. And you're able to sustain more people, and we're like goldfish. Right? We really are. we grow, we expand our stuff. We've all got stuff.
Yeah.
Right? I got a garage full of stuff. And ever how much room you have, that's how much stuff you have.
Yes, it's true.
It really is almost.
What's that law? There's like a natural law, but I don't know what it is.
I don't know, but you just gotta look. So it's an infinite. There's an infinite supply. There really, really is. And so when you are, it's not. If you're rich, then I can't be.
Yes.
And especially with the government printing all this money. I mean, there's more money out there than ever. I
Right.
mean, and that is why I see people complain and saying Jeff Bezos got richer and the rich get richer and the rich get richer.
Right.
Well, you've gotten all this money too. But what they're doing is taking that money and investing it in assets.
Right. Their behavior reflects the natural laws of the universe.
Correct. It is about how you think. And if you think, I just got this money, I'm going to go buy, whatever. I'm going to go, whatever I'm going to do, buy something. I mean, I have a Mustang convertible, right?
Oh, I can see you driving it right now.
It's a lot of fun. It's my midlife crisis car. And it's a stick.
Yeah.
So half the people never get stolen because nobody knows how to drive them anymore. But it's a blast. And I love it. And it's fun. And I could see how driving a Lamborghini would be fun.
Yeah. So there's things like that
would
you invest
have
in
to
your
be.
own happiness and energy and things like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not all about investing is what you're saying.
Yeah, but I can't see myself taking that kind of money and putting it in a car that's going to depreciate. But what I can see is taking that money and going and investing it, and then maybe driving my friend's Lamborghini or getting renting one or something. Right. It's just a different mentality.
Yeah.
And if you're Jeff Bezos, but I hear he doesn't have one.
But the thing about, one of the things that I've recognized about the most wealthy people that I know is that they're very cognizant of who they're spending their time with, what they're putting into their mind. And the thing that I noticed about you is you spend your time with great people who are questioning things. They're saying, why is it this way? Or what else might be true? And surrounding yourself with those type of people, educating them, connecting them to new opportunities. And what I've also recognized is that you're almost a little bit magnetic in how you surround yourself with people who think bigger as well. Could you say anything about that?
I think it's just a natural progression of if you believe this, if you believe what we've just talked about, how, if somebody just gives you money, and it's very easy to become a victim.
Right.
If you don't have
We were talking about this on property yesterday.
Yeah, we were. And, there's a person on the staff, we're trying to decide who we're going to hire and who we're not, that we were thinking, he had an excuse for everything. Well, we can't buy this, we can't buy that. Well, is it because somebody above him is saying you can't? Or is that him, right?
Right.
And if that's him, so we just have to wait. And after we take over and once we say, okay,
Well, it's like what Trevor says, coach him up or coach him out.
That's exactly
seriously,
right.
Let's give them the tools to succeed. But if we can't get them there, then, we can't have that. We can't surround ourselves with victims because I don't know about you, but it's easier to become the victim than to be the victor on the way to victory, right? If you surround yourself with victims, people say, well, I can't do this because the new tax policy is this, or my money is now worth so much less because they've printed so much more. Okay, there's many issues out there, but what are we doing, right? What are we doing? What type of behavior are we engaging in?
Correct.
You know what I mean?
And you really have to just think logically. This is all come on, this guy was worried about a countertop.
Right.
And he was afraid that he was going to make a mistake. And so he was waiting for the guy from Home Depot to come out and measure it so that he didn't make a mistake because it has to be perfect.
And it was going to be 4 more weeks or something.
Some
like
nonsense.
Crazy.
Meanwhile, we're losing, $1,000 a month at least with the apartment sitting empty because there's no countertop. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Is it the same size? We figured that out in about 2 seconds. Is it the same size?
And we're not smarter than anybody.
Correct. I'm really not very smart. Seriously. Seriously. And
she's really not. No,
I'm really not. I didn't,
no,
believe me, I didn't score an SAT, all the stuff that.
Like your daughter.
I went to Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And,
You're not as smart as your daughter, that's for sure.
Right. That's true.
But we figured it out. It was like, look, man, you're stepping over dollars to pick up pennies.
Correct.
And so that's another thing. It's like, let's think about this. Let's use some logic. If you've got one
the same size at the other thing, why don't you just go measure that and order the same thing?
And I don't know about you, but I grew up with this middle class mentality though as well. It's like, let's make sure that we wait the 4 weeks and let's make sure we measure 6 times. We do it right to make sure we don't waste anything.
And that's true.
But what you don't realize is that you're losing thousands of dollars along the way. You don't realize that. It's a different mindset shift.
You have to critically think about it.
Yeah.
What's the trade-off?
Right.
Because there's a downside to everything.
Yeah.
Nothing is without risk. And that's the thing with COVID. It's almost like it's a risk.
Yeah.
It is a risk. But
But you don't focus on that though, right?
Well, what's the alternative? I decided a while ago I didn't want to live like that because it was bringing me down.
Yeah.
And so I stopped living like that. And
but when you're the victim and there's downside in everything, you automatically manifest that, in my opinion.
Correct.
The downside comes, and then you're just like, oh, see, I told you. But then when you have the opposite mentality and you say, look, there's downside in everything, but there's also an upside in the downside.
That's right.
That is when some amazing things happen, because then you can take action. You can perhaps get that upside. And even if you don't get that upside, maybe you experience that downside, there's a gift in that as well.
And what's really disturbing is that we are lowering standards all over in so many things.
Yeah.
All the way down to, you make college free. At college, the problem is it's too expensive. There's no question that we've got a huge
100%.
problem with college costs. But giving the community college free isn't the answer.
You got to work for things.
Well, yeah, so I think that we go from extreme to extreme, and that's what governments do. We were just talking. You rise to the level of your expectations,
yes.
And so we're buying this property in Evansville, Indiana, and we were there yesterday, and it's like, how many power washers do you have? Let's go. Seriously.
It was dirty. The property, there's so many little things. It's like, gosh, clean the property. It's ridiculous.
And this thing is 90-something% occupied.
Oh, yeah.
And what's not occupied are the apartments. The only thing that's keeping it from being 100% is that the countertop isn't here yet. It's just quite crazy.
Yeah.
And so it's like, these are things, this is a huge opportunity, but we can make that. Not only can we make money for our investors, and we can make that a better place for these tenants to live. And when you come home to a nicer place, you begin to believe that you're worth that. And when you begin to believe that you're worth coming home to a nice place, and that then you are able to, maybe I can get a better job. Maybe I can,
maybe I can become more resilient, persistent.
Correct.
Maybe I can go through a little bit of discomfort in whatever, it's my professional career, in relationships. Maybe I can bounce back from this challenge. Maybe I am not a victim in these things, right?
And that's how you change the world.
Yes.
That's the answer. The answer is not to print more money and to give everybody, we need to help one another be all that we can be.
Take some personal responsibility.
Yeah, and it's a two-way street. I tell my daughter, it's like, the bar isn't all that high. She's trying to get into colleges, and, one person said, no, go to a virtual thing, and I helped her write a note to the person, and all of a sudden, the admissions person has time to see her.
So have a little bit of persistence, right? The bar is low. It's like, if you get a no.
Because most people, she got a no, and I'll try to contact me in the fall or whatever. And I said, well, write her a nice thank you note.
Yeah.
And then just put a few things in there. So I helped her kind of tweak it.
Yeah.
And the response was, I'm glad you've done your homework. I appreciate that. And she's going to meet her on a Sunday afternoon, and show her around the school. And this is the head of admissions for a college that's really one of the top schools in the country. So,
well, it's like, if you believe in something, you're willing to go over that small bar, even though most people aren't willing to go over the small bar. What's the worst that could happen, right? There's no downside.
It's not like you're going to offend her.
We're in our own heads about these things. It's like, well, if we follow up with an email, then they might think that I'm annoying, or who cares?
But everybody loves a thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody loves a thank you. And so you don't have to be completely annoying, but you can stand up for yourself. And that's about really what we're talking about here. And that's the difference that we can make with what we do. And I love multifamily because of that.
I know.
We can really, these people that can't build a house and don't have anywhere to live, we can give them a nice place to live until their house is built.
This is why, and I'm so glad that we've partnered on multiple deals now. We're doing more. We're going to do so much more. And our philosophy with CF Capital is elevating communities together.
That's right.
And it's not just about taking and extracting all the value from other people. It's about giving and receiving, and allowing every person to receive. Like, whether you live there, whether you work at the property, whether you live around the property, whether you work around the property, whether you've invested in the property from an equity or a debt position, and all these things. It's like, we can all do better.
And because we're bypassing Wall Street, you see, we don't have to pay for big offices, and I didn't even get a rental car, right?
That's right.
We don't have to do that. Then this is why Wall Street does not like us.
Right.
Because what we're doing is doing exactly what the hedge funds are doing, only we're sharing that a little much more broadly.
Yeah.
And so that's the opportunity that I feel so great about everything that we're doing, because it's just really we've made a difference in a lot of people's lives, all the way from the residents to the investors.
So I want to be respectful of your time, and I know you and I have got some things we got to go here soon.
Yeah, we really do.
But if I were to ask you, just because one of the things that I think is really insightful about you is that you continue to educate yourself, not only from the financial system, markets, political stuff, things that are going on across the world, across the country. Is there any advice that you give your younger self on being educated on this, or stepping into further, whether it's financial education or just logical thinking? Is there any advice that you give your younger self?
Just because somebody's in a position of power doesn't mean they're necessarily right, or that it's necessarily right for you. But that doesn't mean that you should hate them, or that doesn't mean that they're automatically trying to screw you. That the universe is also, more people are good than not good. Now, I want to reiterate again. Listen. Do your own research. I have no idea. I am wrong about a lot of stuff. People don't agree with me. And that's fine. But just go investigate yourself, and see if you read my book. I'm going to give your listeners a free copy.
Boom.
We'll
put a link in the show notes.
Put in keep more when you check out hiddeninvesting.com, and you just pay for, I think, shipping the book or whatever.
Perfect.
So, read that and see what you think and do your own. Don't believe everything right off the bat.
Question things, but also don't put yourself in an analysis paralysis position where you never take action. Be willing to go after things.
And don't be intimidated by people that are in position, because they're just people.
Yeah.
Right? And try to find people that have what you want, people that are better than you, people that are smarter than you, and try to hang around them.
I love it.
And that's what I tell her. Don't hang around these people that are dragging you down. If you want to go to Harvard, you find some Harvard graduates and go hang around. Go around with people that want to go there.
And if they say no, ask again. Say thank you for no, but here's what my proposal is. Here's what I suggest.
That's exactly right.
Right? Because you're here to serve people on purpose with purpose.
And what advice would you give me?
Right.
Yeah, everybody loves a coach. When I was in sales,
gosh.
I would say, talk to somebody. I wanted to get to somebody high up in a company. So I'd find like their assistant, or I'd find somebody else in the organization. I was like, listen, Susie, I really need a coach.
Oh, man.
Who doesn't want to be a coach? Right?
You just put that person on a huge pedestal,
That's
and
right.
that feels good, right? It feels
I really
good.
need a coach. Can you help me navigate this? Who should I talk to? This is kind of what we do.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you think? What would you do if you were me? How do I imagine?
Ask.
Give you all kinds of advice. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you couldn't get in there anyway.
Yeah, you do a really good job of that. You're always people talk about who, not how, all the time. You live that every day. Who?
Not every day. I mean, believe me, everybody's human, right?
For sure.
And bad things happen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've had some bad things happen, and
Yeah.
and
But you
people
bounce back. You're resilient, and it's about your mindset.
You got to keep just going, because what's the alternative, right?
What else are you going to do?
We're here, might as well have a good time.
But in the grand scheme of things always turn out well.
Because that's the law of the universe.
That's it.
So
I think that's a great place to wrap today.
do
But is
too.
there any parting thoughts or words of wisdom that you like to share with
this
Elevate
is
Nation?
just great. It's just such a privilege, and so grateful to be here, and just we've got a nice little tribe here, and it's just
I agree.
wonderful.
I agree. Yeah, no, I appreciate you so much, Holly. Is there anywhere where Elevate Nation can find you? Where's the best place for them to find you? Is it keepmore.com?
Keepmore.com. I've got a Facebook group you can join. There's links to the book. The book is hiddeninvesting.com. You can go there, get a free gift, buy the book free, whatever. Just put Keep More when you're checking out.
And then, of course, you're on social media, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook. Are you on Instagram?
I need to get on Instagram.
We gotta get you on
I have an
Instagram.
account, and I have some followers, but I don't know really how to,
When you start blowing that, the thing's going to blow up. It's going to be unbelievable. I can already feel it. Holly Williams, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right.
So great.
Until next time, Holly, Elevate Nation, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Elevate. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to elevate your results by taking immediate action on what you learned. For more, visit elevatepod.com.